Hello.
Hi, Evan. It's Eric.
Hi, Eric.
Hi, we're here. We're going to come by and pick you up. I'll meet you outside.
Sounds great.
Okay, I'll see you in 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm on my way.
Okay, bye-bye. Hey, welcome to Locales Only. I'm Eric Hale, and if you don't know me, I'm the guy that founded Locale Magazine 14 years ago in my garage. It's been my job for all those years to tell you the coolest places to eat in all of Southern California, fun things to do so you have date nights that aren't boring, and we've talked to some really interesting people. Now we have a podcast, and we're lucky enough to call this Mercedes-Benz EQE all-electric sedan, courtesy of Fletcher Jones Motorcars in Newport Beach, our mobile podcast studio. So sit back, buckle up, and enjoy the conversation. Welcome to Locales Only. Today, we're in Santa Monica, and we're going to be picking up our guest on the media campus of Santa Monica College. You'll recognize her voice immediately. Evan Kleiman has been a podcast host and a chef since 1997 on KCRW with the podcast Good Food. Today, we're going to talk about her time in Europe, where she backpacked and stayed in hostels. We're going to talk about her time as a restaurateur in Los Angeles and what she thinks of the food culture here. We might even get her to tell us what her favorite fast food sandwich is. So sit back, buckle up, and enjoy Locales Only. I mean, just getting right into it, you've been doing this for 27 years. I believe that KCRW, from the musical aspect to the speakers that they have to the hosts that they have, has a lot to do with the culture of Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times people have told me that when they move here, you know, LA can be so overwhelming because it's not an obvious city, despite all the social media memes that we see about what we are, and that KCRW actually helps them navigate the city to kind of like find their people. And I believe that that is 100% true.
I think that's important. So KCRW does that. You help LA find food. And I think the one thing that struck me, I was actually in a grocery store recently, and I think it's sometimes a poor place to find food.
That's so funny.
Right? So I was looking around and I'm like, there's not a lot of food here, and there's definitely not a lot of good food. There might be some stuff that you could transform into something that's good food, but there's not a lot of ready food that is, like your podcast, good food. And when I listen to you talk, you're always telling us, whether it's, I don't know, Uganda or India or Texas, you're talking to people about good food all around the world, and then you're also bringing it home and talking about where we can get that food here. So do you feel, sorry the question's so long.
That's okay.
Sometimes I feel like LA is such a cornucopia and one of the foodie destinations in the whole world, but at the same time, a lot of average people are kind of living in a food desert when it comes to just shopping at their local grocery store only.
That's a huge question with many subparts.
Okay.
I would say that in my world, grocery stores have food because I'm what I guess they call now an ingredient household.
Okay.
So when I go to the store, I'm not looking for something that's already made.
Right.
Because I cook, you know. Mm-hmm. I had a restaurant for almost 30 years in addition to doing good food. And there was a long period of time where I was doing both at the same time. So I'm a cook. So I feel like LA is this wonderland of a place to be able to really get almost whatever you want, no matter what you want to cook. That being said, yes, there are areas of the city that have almost been redlined from the point of view of large institutional grocery stores who feel that it's too risky or it's not going to be profitable enough to put a grocery store in, which is just makes me sick and is not true and ridiculous, and makes me angry that we have to be so dependent on chains whose home and decision-making process is so far away from this actual city.
Right. So I think that was kind of the question I was getting at, is I feel like when I listen to your show, I feel like I'm transported to this magical place with farmers markets and people with, honey on rooftops and all these different ingredients and radishes, and they do the farmer's market takes, and I'm like, oh, that's what I want to eat. That's where I want to be. And I am inspired, when I hear you talk to chefs or when I hear you talk about food or about your own cooking, I'm always inspired. My question is, how does the average person in LA transfer that inspiration into their kitchen and into their stomach?
So the thing that's really interesting about LA is that there are so many myths out there that just aren't true. Like the idea that the whole farmers market ethos is elitist. Farmers markets in California were created to create a direct face-to-face interface between people who grow food and people who eat food without a middleman, thus supplying farmers with a lot of customers that they may have a difficult time finding if they're a small, non-institutional farmer. And here in California, you can use your EBT card, what used to be called SNAP benefits, at farmers markets. Okay. And a lot of people do. It's interesting. I was talking to one of my producers, Jillian Ferguson, who's the part of the Good Food team who does the market report.
Yeah.
And we
were just listening to that on the way over here, actually.
Yeah, and we were talking about it because the other thing that California has is this program called Market Match, which enables people who are on, quote, food stamps or SNAP benefits to get twice the amount of value for buying vegetables at farmers markets.
Really?
So people can go at their farmers market, they can go to the main table there, show their EBT card, and then they're given these, what they're called veggie vouchers for like $10 or $20, and it effectively doubles their buying power. And I asked Jillian, I said, you're primarily at the Santa Monica Farmers Market. Do you see people using their EBT cards a lot? And she said, absolutely, definitely, all the time. Yeah. And then we recently did a story with Food Access LA, which is the nonprofit that runs the Hollywood Farmers Market, Crenshaw, the Compton Market, Atwater and the LA River markets. So quite a big variety of income represented in those neighborhoods. And they recently started an online portal. So you can actually order from the farmer's market, get it delivered to your house.
Really?
And it's a 20-mile radius. I always knew this was true, but the fact that it was just so clearly stated by the woman who runs this nonprofit really was interesting to me. And because we featured them on the Market Report a couple weeks ago, they said that Good Food listeners could get a 15% discount through February if they put Good Food into the into their order thing.
Yeah.
And I was I don't know why, but I was so surprised that so many people who used that and who heard our story on KCRW were people who used SNAP benefits.
Yeah, wow. How funny is I think it's funny that you probably don't understand the impact that KCRW and programs like yours have on the rest of us, because there's not a lot. I mean, locale, which is what I do, we're kind of like where to go, what to do, very pop culture side of where to eat and things to do. But I think KCRW has always been more of a voice to let people really know what's happening in the community, how they can interact with those things. So I think you have a very important voice and people listen. So I'm not surprised at all when you tell me that. Let me ask you that. So this is something I've always, as a longtime listener, first-time talker with you, I've always been interested in the fact that you're, bringing in guests from so many different places. So in my brain, I was always like, I wonder if Evan travels through these guests, or has she done cooking classes? We've done cooking classes in Mexico and in Thailand, and it's always so fun, and you learn about the culture. Are you learning through your guest, or do you also like to travel? You mentioned Italy, but do you like to travel and cook and do the whole Anthony Bourdain thing? Well,
my relationship with Italy started when I was 16. Okay. And I graduated really young from high school and did not get accepted to the college of my choice.
How old are you when you graduated?
16.
Me too.
Wow.
And I had, it was rare back then.
Yeah.
And I had enough money saved from doing miscellaneous catering jobs and baking cookies when I was in junior high and high school, that I was able to go to Europe. And I spent almost a year there, and I had always been interested in languages. And so Italian culture kind of became like my adopted food culture on top of my own. And so now I
Could I ask what city you were in mostly?
I lead tours now. I lead food tours rather than taking.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, then, I was hitchhiking. It was
so you're like hitchhiking in hostels, that type of travel?
Yeah, it was the 70s, with a backpack.
Nice.
And so you'd be
Awesome.
staying in a B&B,
Yeah.
not an Airbnb.
Right.
Where sometimes you'd be sharing a bedroom with the grandma. I mean, it was
really?
literally you would be in people's houses.
That's so wild.
Well,
And
then,
because
no.
I was so shy,
Mm-hmm.
I would prefer and stay home with the Nona
Yeah.
and help
That
her
sounds
make
like
dinner,
me.
then go out and make the scene in the disco or whatever.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh, wow.
Totally. But
Um,
wow, what a great
I just
learning.
imagining Evan at the disco right now.
No. It's like that was not my scene.
I would much rather be at home
Maybe
with
in my
grandma.
imagination,
Yeah.
I was a disco queen. But yeah, and so I started traveling very young. And
Okay.
in that trip, I traveled through then the former Yugoslavia. I lived in a Greek village for a couple of months.
Wow.
And then once I started going to college, I ended up majoring in Italian literature and film. And so I just used any excuse to go back to Italy every single summer and would travel a lot. And then, what tends to happen is you start having relationships with people and you
Yeah.
make friends.
Yeah.
And so then you sort of not really get stuck because, I'm stuck in Rome. Oh,
Right.
terrible.
You have to visit.
But, you go back and you hang out with your friends and you get to know one area really well. So there was a period of time where one of my best friends married an Italian. She was living in Milan. So I got to know Northern Italy a bit more, which was really fantastic.
Yeah.
And for the last, couple of decades, I have a really, really close friend, nearly family, who they live in Rome and they have a house in the countryside in Umbria.
Okay.
And they've been incredibly generous with me, and I've learned so much by just, piggybacking on their daily life when I visit.
How fun.
Let me ask a question,
Sure.
kind of pulling off of that for Los Angeles. There's a lot of great Italian here, I feel like now. I don't know if it's the same Italian that you get there.
Yeah, see, I think
it's not. It doesn't feel the same, but is there something that might feel similar to something that you might get in Milan or Rome or Florence?
100%. I mean, so, my restaurant that I had for almost 30 years, my restaurants
Right.
were Italian.
Right.
So I must say that I don't go out for Italian food a ton because, I
Make it at
It's so
home.
much
I
better.
can cook it.
Yeah.
But like for Milanese food, like the greatest risotto in the city, I think Officine Brera downtown is just completely amazing.
Okay.
I also think Rosso Blu is really, really good. And I really love Evan Funky's restaurants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't only share a name, by the way. We share a birthday.
Oh my gosh, how funny.
Not the same year, but I just think it's so funny.
We just
That's
ate at Mother
wild.
Wolf maybe a few weeks
I
ago
love
and
Mother
really
Wolf.
enjoyed ourselves. It was
Yeah,
nice.
well, I'm a mortadella hound, so
Okay.
that thing he
Ooh.
makes that's like that folded over kind of
Yeah.
pizza stuffed with mortadella and ricotta is just like
That's a very
Yeah,
Italian
sure.
thing. That's something where you
Heaven
go
for
and they
me.
do the fold and they hand it to you and you can walk around and eat it. I forget where we got that, but yeah, that was we actually had a restaurant in Culver City. I think we interviewed him at
Felix.
Felix about 11 or
right.
12 years ago.
Yeah, Felix is really incredible, and if you're lucky enough to live in Venice or in that area, I have friends where that's like their neighborhood hang.
Wow.
I shouldn't say unfortunately. I live in Mid City.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man, it's like a flyover zone
Yeah, it's not.
for restaurants. I don't.
You got to venture out
I don't
from there,
get
right?
it. It's like I grew up in Los Feliz, Silver Lake,
Yeah.
Okay.
and when it was time for me to buy a house, I didn't buy there because I had restaurants spread out all over LA, and the idea of driving from Silver Lake to like the marina, for example,
Yeah.
was
Oh,
just
yeah,
there was no way I was going to do that. So I bought my place central. But now I feel like every other meal where I'm meeting people is like Silver Lake, Echo Park. And what I love about that area is that because there's such a large like clumping of restaurants there, people feel that they can open relatively like small, not dining palaces, right? Little tiny places.
More neighborhood feel.
Exactly. And that's
areas.
my favorite kind of restaurant. And I just wish people would understand that Mid-Wilshire and Mid-City, we have a lot of population density and we would like to eat really good food.
Maybe they're waiting for you to open another restaurant.
I've never been so happy in my life to not be in the business as when the pandemic happened.
Oh, okay.
Well, that might be something to kind of finish up on is the climate today. For restaurants, right? We're reading about just restaurant after, the LA Times did a story about all these restaurants that closed. We're seeing in San Francisco, there's I think I listened to a story about barbecue in Texas where they're struggling on one of your podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, it's too much of a good thing. There's so much competition now. It's much harder.
Right. Everybody wants to be in this crazy business with the crazy hours and no profits for some reason.
It's just not. I feel like the restaurant business in a lot of ways is like farming, where it's like a lifestyle. Unless you are backed by a lot of money, you have money, and you are opening a high concept restaurant that you're going to roll out into many places.
And you love torture.
I mean, and you're a businessman and you're a business person, right?
Right.
The only reason to go into the restaurant business is because your soul has no other choice.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Because it is a really hard business. And I think the extreme profit taking that we've seen in the food chain over the last 3 years, some people have called it greedflation.
Right. Raising the prices even though they didn't need to and just kind of leaving them up there after the pandemic. A lot of people
and I mean, some restaurants are paying triple for standard menu items that they need to have to prepare their dishes. They're paying like 300% more than they were.
Or even a specific ingredient has gone up sometimes. I think maybe on your program where it'll 10x the cost of one ingredient where you can't include it in that dish anymore. You have to take it off the menu.
I mean, just butter, chicken, all the proteins, everything. I mean, it's really, really hard. And also, I love California. I'm very proud to be a Californian.
Me too.
I like to think of myself as a progressive. But the reality is that doing business in California is more expensive than other places because we want people to be able to live a life while they're, slaving, doing their job, And I think the average diner really has no idea what is on a profit and loss statement of a restaurant. I mean, they think of the food costs, but just the insurance costs.
I think a lot of people think about the employee cost nowadays too. That's been a hot topic with minimum wage and how much somebody has to be paid.
I mean, labor is insane, but workers' comp is based on your labor costs. And
every cost has accelerated to the point where it's almost impossible. And I think there comes a time where you go like, how much is this plate of spaghetti with tomatoes? And you go, well, that's $39.95. And people go, well, I'm not doing that. That's crazy.
I know. And I mean, it happens to me all the time. I go out to a nice new little restaurant with a couple of friends and we order somewhat modestly. Maybe we'll have one drink each or a glass of wine, and it's $100 a person.
It's wild.
Right.
It's gotten very expensive.
I mean, that for me is really hard to take, mostly because the restaurant that I had for all those years, my tiny little place on Melrose, it was like a community center. I watched kids grow up, like whole generations of kids. I watch them eat their first piece of solid food and then watch them tattooed to come home from college.
Right.
And that was because their parents could afford to come. Forget about twice a month. I had so many people coming twice a week. And that kind of place is going away.
Can I say, because we're getting back here close to the studios and close to the end of this conversation, but first of all, it's been an absolute pleasure. But I think the most interesting insight that I found is that the persona from the radio is definitely the same persona that I'm getting here in this podcast. And I feel like your life is almost an episode of Good Food. And that is really encouraging to kind of get behind the other side of the mirror and see that what you're talking about is how you live your life.
You're
and
so
I think that's really
authentic.
authentic. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person that when I go to friends' houses for dinner, they're like, Evan, please don't talk about the problems with the food system while we're eating.
Yeah, just let me enjoy this,
And I'm like,
please.
okay. I'm like the person who knows too much. And I think that...
That's when I talk about AI, I'm not allowed to talk about AI.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I just killed the whole dinner
Yeah,
conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, enough with the
Okay,
robots
well
taking
done. I
over the
get it.
world.
Exactly. And I think it's like with me, for a long time, I could be in like denial. And
Right.
just eat whatever I want, buy whatever I want. But then, you do so many stories and you're like,
Now you're looking into
I kind of have to
You're-
live the life,
yeah,
right?
I think I need to walk the
just
walk
doesn't
a little
taste-
bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not like there's nobody seeing Evan at the McDonald's drive-thru.
Yeah.
the guilt just
You can pull into that little parking lot next
Oh,
to the
okay.
black next to the black car.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I can't imagine. Who's that? Is that Evan here at McDonald's getting like a?
Oh, I actually
triple?
do.
Oh, you
Like,
do.
Oh, yeah,
last week I had a fillet of fish.
I love that's his favorite.
That's my go-to.
Me too.
My only fast food is McDonald's, and I only allow myself on a road trip
I love all
because I feel like if I'm on a road trip,
Lately, the
then
fillet of fish thing has gotten a
They're
little
pretty-
too strong.
I don't even know if it's
Has it?
fish, but it's dang good.
Oh, it's actual
Yeah.
fish.
I really enjoy it. Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, it's a
and
pleasure. Thank you
Thank
both
you
for
for
having
all
me.
you do,
Yeah.
Evan. You're really, I'm starstruck, honestly. You're amazing.
I think we all are. Thank you for joining us today on Locales Only.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Locales Only. We really appreciate Evan jumping in the car. Fantastic to hear her stories. I want to thank everyone on the Straw Hut Media team, including executive producer Ryan Tillotson and our editor and producer Parker J. Hicks. And as always, a big thank you to Fletcher Jones Motor Cars in Newport Beach for providing this beautiful Mercedes-Benz EQE to be our rolling podcast studio. Join us next time on Locales Only, where you can buckle up and go for a ride in our mobile podcast studio with some of the coolest people in Southern California.